the country where the rainforest still rules life. If viewed from space, Guyana almost disappears beneath a blanket of green. Not the green of farmland, not the green of modern cities, but the endless green of one of the largest remaining untouched tropical rainforests on Earth. In the 21st century, as humanity has covered much of the planet with highways, factories, and cities that never sleep, Guyana remains a rare exception, a country where nature has never truly stepped aside. Here, vast regions still have no road access. There are villages that can only be reached after hours of travel by river or by landing on a small airstrip carved into the wilderness. There are communities located hundreds of kilometers from the nearest hospital, and there are landscapes so immense that human beings appear as little more than tiny dots within an ecosystem that existed long before modern civilization. From the window of a small propeller aircraft crossing the skies of South America, the world below feels like a glimpse into a distant past. Massive rivers twist through the jungle like living arteries. Ancient mountains rise from an ocean of trees. Wetlands, savannas, and waterfalls stretch across the horizon, many of them barely touched by human hands. Looking down at this landscape, it is difficult to believe that it exists in the same era as the world's megacities. But what makes Guyana truly remarkable is not its wilderness alone. What is even more extraordinary is that hundreds of thousands of people have built their lives within this challenging environment. They read rivers the way others read maps. They understand the forest as intimately as they understand their own homes. And they maintain a relationship with nature that much of the modern world lost generations ago. Today, we journey into one of South America's least explored nations, a land where the rainforest sets the rules, where rivers serve as highways, and where daily life still follows rhythms established by nature thousands of years ago. This is Guyana, a place where people do not conquer the wilderness, they learn how to live within it. On the map of South America, Guyana may appear to be a small country quietly tucked away in the continent's northeastern corner, bordered by Venezuela, Brazil, Suriname, and the Atlantic Ocean. But don't let its size fool you. Beyond those borders lies one of the most pristine and least disturbed natural landscapes left on Earth. Guyana is also the only country in South America where English is the official language, a lasting legacy of British colonial rule. This unique history has given the country a distinctive identity, where South American geography blends seamlessly with Caribbean culture. It is a place unlike anywhere else on the continent, one that even seasoned travelers often find surprisingly different. The name Guyana comes from an indigenous word meaning the land of many waters. It is far more than just a name. It is nature's own definition of this country. From above, thousands of rivers, streams, and wetlands spread across the landscape like an immense network of arteries, weaving through dense rainforest, marshes, and seasonally flooded plains. For centuries, these waterways served as the country's first highways, its trade routes, its primary food source, and the natural boundaries between communities. Even today, Reaching many villages deep in the interior still requires hours, or sometimes even days of traveling by boat, simply because there are no roads leading there. That is why most of Guyana's population is concentrated along the country's narrow northern coastal plain. Although this coastal strip occupies only a small fraction of the nation's territory, it is home to the vast majority of its people, major cities, ports, and economic centers. Travel just a few dozen kilometers inland, however, and the scenery begins to change dramatically. The farmland gradually disappears. The roads become increasingly scarce. Human settlements begin to fade into the distance. In their place emerges an endless expanse of tropical rainforest stretching toward every horizon. Nearly 80% of Guyana remains covered by pristine rainforest, making it one of the most heavily forested countries in the world. That is why, from space, the nation appears almost entirely green. The deeper you venture into the interior, the more it feels as though you are leaving the modern world behind. Here, life is no longer measured by rush hours or transportation schedules. Instead, it follows the rhythm of the rivers, the arrival of the wet and dry seasons, and the timeless laws that the rainforest has quietly enforced for thousands of years. Perhaps that is what makes Guyana so extraordinary. It is not simply a country surrounded by nature. It is a land shaped by water and forest, where geography has sculpted not only the landscape, but also the way people travel, survive, and live from one generation to the next. If the Amazon is often called the lungs of the earth, then Guyana is home to one of the most intact and pristine parts of that vast ecosystem. Most of the country remains covered by nearly untouched tropical rainforest, where life thrives in extraordinary abundance and countless ecological layers are intricately connected. Every step into the forest reveals a different world. High in the towering canopy, the harpy eagle, one of the world's most powerful birds of prey, silently watches over the jungle from its enormous nest built atop ancient trees. On the forest floor, jaguars move quietly along nearly invisible trails, serving as the apex predators of this remarkable ecosystem. Along the winding rivers, giant otters hunt cooperatively in family groups, while black caimans, freshwater turtles, and hundreds of tropical bird species share one of the richest freshwater habitats still found anywhere on Earth. Beneath the water lies an equally extraordinary world. Massive arapaima, capable of growing up to 3 meters long and weighing more than 200 kilograms, glide slowly through the deep channels. Alongside them swim giant catfish, peacock bass, electric fish, and hundreds of other freshwater species, creating one of South America's most diverse river ecosystems. But what truly makes Guyana remarkable is not simply the number of species that live here. It is the way people have learned to live alongside them. For indigenous communities, the rainforest is far more than a place filled with wildlife. It is their supermarket, their pharmacy, their classroom, and the home their ancestors have lived in for thousands of years. Fishing, hunting, and gathering forest resources remain an essential part of daily life. Yet these activities are rarely carried out without careful thought. Local communities know when fish begin their breeding season and avoid harvesting them during those critical periods. They understand which areas must be left undisturbed so wildlife populations have time to recover. They can read animal tracks, recognize calls, and notice the smallest changes in the forest to determine where to hunt, when to harvest, and when it is time to stop. This is more than knowledge passed down through generations. It is a sophisticated system of ecological wisdom built over thousands of years through observation, adaptation, and deep respect for the natural world. Perhaps that is why in Guyana, people do not exist outside the ecosystem. They are part of it. And it is this enduring balance between people and nature that has helped preserve Guyana's ancient forests in their remarkably pristine state for millennia. The indigenous peoples who have lived with the rainforest for thousands of years. Long before European explorers first set foot in what is now Guyana, this land was already home to numerous indigenous communities. The Makushi, the Wapishana, the Patamona, the Arawak, the Wai-Wai, along with many other indigenous peoples who have lived among these forests for thousands of years. To them, the rainforest was never a wilderness to be conquered. It was their first teacher, their source of life, a place that preserved the memories of their ancestors, and a shared home where humans and wildlife existed as part of the same living system. Over thousands of years, these communities developed an extraordinary body of ecological knowledge that continues to fascinate scientists today. They know exactly which plants can treat fever, relieve pain, or stop bleeding. They understand which rivers will rise before the rainy season, which soils are best suited for growing cassava, and which parts of the forest should be left undisturbed so nature has time to regenerate. This is not folklore. It is the result of thousands of years of observation, experimentation, and adaptation to one of the most biologically diverse and environmentally demanding landscapes on Earth. An elder in a remote village can often predict the arrival of the rainy season simply by listening to the calls of certain birds, watching the direction of the wind, or observing subtle changes in the color of the river. These seemingly insignificant signs can determine the right time to plant crops, fish, hunt, or travel. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect is that this immense body of knowledge has rarely been written down. There were no formal schools, no textbooks, no libraries. Instead, every lesson has been passed down through everyday life. It is this enduring relationship between people and nature that has helped keep much of Guyana's rainforest remarkably intact to this day. Perhaps that is why these indigenous communities are remembered not only as the forest's earliest inhabitants, they are also its quiet guardians, protecting one of the planet's last great reservoirs of biodiversity. The rivers, the lifelines of Guyana. In most parts of the world, roads determine a country's development. In Guyana, it is the rivers that keep the nation alive. The Essequibo River, the longest river in Guyana and one of the largest in South America, together with hundreds of tributaries, forms a vast natural transportation network that connects the country's remote interior where roads are virtually non-existent. As you travel along these waterways, Small villages quietly emerge along the riverbanks. Children travel to school by boat. Families transport food, fuel, and supplies in motorized canoes. Fishermen return at sunrise with the day's catch that will feed their communities. Here, a boat is far more than a means of transportation. It is the school bus, the delivery truck, and sometimes even the ambulance carrying patients to hospitals hundreds of kilometers away. Yet, these rivers are never entirely predictable. During the rainy season, rising waters flood vast stretches of forest, transforming the landscape into an endless inland sea. When the dry season arrives, water levels fall, exposing rocks and shallow channels that make navigation slow and difficult. In Guyana, distance is not measured in kilometers. It is measured by the condition of the river. People who have spent their lives on these waterways can read the current by the color of the water, recognize hidden obstacles beneath the surface, and know exactly when it is safe to continue or when it is wiser to wait. In Guyana, a map may tell you where you want to go, but it is the river that ultimately decides whether you can get there. There are places that leave a lasting impression because of their magnificent monuments. Others are remembered for their modern cities or extraordinary wonders built by human hands. But Guyana leaves behind a very different feeling. It is the realization that nature is still the true ruler of this land. Throughout our journey, we have explored vast stretches of untouched rainforest, followed rivers that serve as natural highways, met indigenous communities that have lived alongside the forest for thousands of years, and discovered one of the richest ecosystems remaining on Earth. Every landscape tells the same story, that humanity does not always need to conquer nature in order to survive. Sometimes, the greatest wisdom lies in learning how to live in harmony with it. Yet Guyana now stands at the threshold of a new chapter in its history. The discovery of vast offshore oil reserves and the country's rapidly expanding economy are creating opportunities unlike anything seen before. At the same time, they raise a question that extends far beyond Guyana itself. How can a nation pursue development without sacrificing forests that have stood for millions of years? How can modernization move forward while preserving cultures that have protected this land for countless generations? Perhaps no one knows the answer yet, and the decisions made today will shape the Guyana of tomorrow. Maybe that is what makes this small nation so extraordinary. It is not simply a destination for travelers seeking untouched wilderness. It is a reminder that there are still places on Earth where life follows the rhythm of rivers, the changing seasons, and the rainforest itself, rather than the relentless pace of modern cities. Hopefully, for generations to come, Guyana will continue to preserve the wild beauty that has made it one of South America's most remarkable and least explored destinations. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Guyana. If you enjoyed this documentary and would like to discover more fascinating places, unique cultures, and hidden corners of our world, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling us which destination you would like to explore next. Until then, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next adventure.